August 8, 1973. At the Grand Palace Hotel in Tokyo, South Korea's Central Intelligence Agency agents anesthetized and kidnapped the opposition Kim Dae-jung, who was in exile in the United States and Japan. It was the 15th president of South Korea later. According to Kim Dae-jung's recollection, he was already on the boat when he woke up with heavy objects tied to his feet, and he probably wanted to sink him to the sea. Fortunately, the US and Japanese intelligence agencies discovered in time, sent ships and planes to chase after them, set up flares, and shouted loudspeakers. The matter was exposed and his life was saved. Kim Dae-jung has been in jail many times in his life, and house arrest is commonplace. It can be said that he is the most difficult president in South Korea. He was born in Japan in Jeolla, South, North Korea in 1924. His father was an experienced village official and did his best to support his son's schooling. Kim Dae-jung was also successful, with first-class grades, was admitted to the Shogunate Business School, and was good at debate and speeches. At that time, in order to assimilate North Koreans, the authorities cancelled the Korean language courses, and the school could not talk in Korean, and even asked to change its name. Kim Dae-jung was forced to give him a Japanese name. He was so insulted that he had been frustrated with his Japanese classmates many times. World War II made Dae-jung's dream of college ruin. After graduating from business school, he first worked and then started his own shipping company, and also served as a reporter and editor of the Shogunate Daily, becoming the president of the newspaper. At this time, Japan had surrendered unconditionally. Dae-jung started a family and started a business, and his life was booming. However, the good times did not last long. In June 1950, the war on the peninsula rekindled. At that time, Kim Dae-jung was on a business trip in Seoul. When he woke up, he was in full swing. It took him 20 days to risk his life to escape back to Mupu's home. As a result, this place has been occupied, and Dae-jung, who lives in a big villa, was arrested as a reactionary capitalist and awaited execution. Only when the North Korean Allied forces landed in Incheon and forced the Northern Army to retreat was he saved his life. Although the family property is completely lost, as long as people are still alive, there are still infinite possibilities. Kim Dae-jung moved his family to Busan and established Xinghua Shipping Company. He started his business for the second time and soon made a comeback. He became a famous entrepreneur under the age of 30. Mencius said, "If you are poor, you will be able to protect yourself. If you are successful, you will be able to help the world." After witnessing the perishment of the same race during the war and the corrupt rule of South Korea's first president, Sungmoon, Kim Dae-jung, who believed in his life and respect of his lover, decided to abandon business and go to politics. In 1954, he returned to the shogunate to compete for parliament. Before, he opened a company and was very good at workers and had a good reputation, and received full support from the shogunate trade union. However, the elected person was unable to resist the unfair morality. The Lee Sung-man administration directly arrested the backbone of the trade union, and Kim Dae-jung failed to win the first election. He was not discouraged and sold his property to continue fighting. In 1960, Lee Sung-man was forced to step down and go into exile under protests from all walks of life in South Korea. A year later, on May 14, Kim Dae-jung was finally elected as a member of Congress. But just one day later, Army Major General Park Chung-hee launched a mutiny and went to power to dissolve the parliament. Kim Dae-jung was deprived of his membership and was detained for 3 months without any judicial procedures. During that period, he was suppressed miserably, without a job and poor, and was entirely supported by his wife Lee Ji-hao. In 1963, Park Chung-hee promulgated a new constitution, established the Third Republic, and reopened the parliament. Kim Dae-jung transformed into an anti-dictatorial fighter and was re-elected as a member of parliament. He cherished this errand especially. In order to prepare the speech materials, he spent a day in the library, setting a Guinness World Record that he had not yet made a splash of water for 5 hours of continuous speech. His efforts were not in vain, and his popularity soared, and he was a core figure in the opposition. In 1971, Kim Dae-jung became an opposition candidate for the presidential race against Park Chung-hee, a military and political strongman. He proposed a series of governance concepts including dialogue between the North and the South and the establishment of a labor management cooperation committee. He traveled 400 to 800 kilometers a day and made speeches from all over the country. He finally received nearly 45% of the votes, only a few 100,000 less than Park Chung-hee. It is generally believed that if Park Chung-hee hadn't cheated, Kim Dae-jung should have won. The high approval rating made him regarded as the biggest threat by Park Chung-hee. 1 month after the election, Kim Dae-jung suffered a deliberately created car accident. The 3 of them who were traveling with him died on the spot. Although he was lucky enough to die, he was also disabled for life and was a little limp in his walking. Fortunately, Kim Dae-jung and others are well known, and Park Chung-hee is concerned about the Americans, otherwise these opposition parties would have been gone long ago. In the autumn of 1972, Dae-jung went to Japan to treat his injuries. Park Chung-hee launched the October Restoration and ate alone openly. After repeated consideration, Dae-jung decided to stay in Japan for refuge. Afterwards, he ran back and forth between the United States and Japan, lobbying for political leaders everywhere, giving speeches, and calling for sanctions and pressure. Park Chung-hee slapped the table in anger. After the cross-border kidnapping incident was exposed, Kim Dae-jung was not thrown into the sea and was taken back to South Korea to be under house arrest. In the following years, he spent the struggle, jail, and then fighting, and jail. In October 1979, Park Chung-hee was assassinated. 2 months later, Kwon Do-won came to power. Kim Dae-jung, Kim Young-sum and Kim Jong-bai continued to fight, and the two were under house arrest, while Kim Dae-jung was sentenced to death. With the intervention of US President Reagan, he was resentenced for another 20 years and was later exiled to the United States. In fact, Chun Do-won didn't plan to really kill Kim Dae-jung, just used him to force the United States to admit himself. In the mid-1980s, due to the continuous struggle of the people and the international commitments made to host the Olympics, Chun Do-won was forced to give in and gradually delegate power, and Kim Dae-chung returned to China to continue fighting. In the South Korean election in 1987, the opposition Three Golds fought against Chun Do-won's loyal friend, Lo Tae-woo. Because of the Three Golds fighting each other, Lo Tae-woo's fishermen won the profit. In the 1992 general election, Kim Dae-jung lost to his former ally Kim Young-san again. It was not until 1997 that Kim Dae-jung, who had been defeated repeatedly, was elected president of South Korea. When he took office, he was already 74 years old, looking back on the ups and downs of more than 10 years. The way to go into politics. Comparing with honeysuckle grass, I firmly believe that spring will come. He buried the suffering he suffered in his heart, treated his old enemies with tolerance, alleviated tensions among various factions, and avoided endless revenge. Kim Dae-jung is also excellent in other aspects. He led South Korea, which was on the verge of collapse in the economy, got rid of the 1998 financial crisis and foreign exchange crisis, promoted the transformation of the industrial structure, established network infrastructure, and at the same time, streamlined public officials and expanded insurance coverage, tripled social welfare expenditure. To the outside world, he coordinated the development of relations with major countries, enhancing South Korea's international status. He adopted a sunny policy towards North Korea, successfully held the first North-South Summit, and won the Nobel Peace Prize for this. After leaving office, Dae-jung's health was getting worse and worse. He died of illness in 2009 at the age of 85. South Korea held a state funeral for him. Overall, Kim Dae-jung is the best among South Korea's presidents. Although critics believe that anti-corruption during his tenure is unfavorable, all three sons are suspected of taking bribes or evading taxes, and the Sunshine Policy has not changed the fundamental relationship between the two parties. The flaws do not hide their merits. Among the past presidents, those who have better ability to govern the country than Dae-jung have less moral character than him. Those who have nobler qualities than him have less moral character than him. Kim Dae-jung is a model president.